All right, we back. Let's get it. Yo, I'm glad you said something. Yeah, because we was getting into a good conversation. The age of information.
Yeah.
Before the internet, I'm glad because Malcolm and I talked about this. Dog, before the age of information, before the internet, how could people really be aware? Let's say you didn't have cable TV. Now your information on a wide scale comes from radio, CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox, UPN. You get your dating advice from UPN. You know what I'm saying?
Which is still owned by one of them cats you just named.
You know what I'm saying?
But the way how we got to this, we were talking about oh yeah, we were talking about how the average person nowadays has a perception of what slavery looks like. Because you had brought up the question that you said people ask you. What was the question?
Yeah, so people sometimes ask me like, okay, you know, you're a big advocate for Juneteenth, but like slavery isn't still legal because people aren't still in chains and things. And I'm like, no, that's called chattel slavery. Chattel slavery is the image that we've been given over time of the black and white jumpsuit, the chains.
Kunta.
Yeah, kunta. Exactly. That slave image. Because once you paint that an image of what a slave looks like, because imagery is very, very, very important. Mm-hmm. Especially, if nothing else, I want this to be one of the highlights of my life. The internet is the sign that God is here. I understand that there are dark sides to the internet. The internet is a tree of knowledge of good and evil. Yeah. Because the internet has now made it to where information, which the brain feeds off of, is widely available. Yes, that will lead to an increase in misinformation. I agree with that. However, that's why I compare it to the tree of knowledge of good and evil. There will be misinformation out there, but I would rather live in a world where there's misinformation and correct information, and I can use the spirit, the Holy Spirit of my creator. I don't give a damn what book you study. I'm talking about that true Holy Spirit. The spirit, the natural spirit of life. I'll choose that any day. Let me live in a world where there's misinformation and true information, and hopefully my spirit will guide me to true information. Because before about the year 2000, before niggas had computers on a wide scale, PCs, personal computers, information was locked away. And it was limited to media, radio, and TV.
You only got what was fed to you.
Exactly.
Now you can pick your own meal.
Yes. Yeah. Chipotle. It's Chipotle now.
It's BK now.
You know, have it your way. And because, like, seriously, one thing we discussed off camera, but we're going to bring it back up right now on camera, is, like, I want you to really, at home, think about this. Reading wasn't legal for everyone in the United States who was black until the 1870s. So now I want you to think about this. Let's say it's 1870 right now. You're 30 years old. I'm 31 years old. You don't know how to read. My black ass don't know how to read. Guess what? Your mama can't read. Not to talk about your mama. My mama can't read either. My grandparents can read, so nobody before me knows how to read. If I have a child today, you have a child tomorrow. That child ain't gonna know how to read. Who's gonna teach you how to read? Yeah. So now we're talking maybe the 1910s, 1920s before reading is on a wide scale, like, and that may be being generous, but until there are a group of proficient black readers, for real. Yeah. 1910s, and like I said, that might be pushing it.
Yeah.
And so now you think about the fact that the 13th Amendment, use that for example, ratified in 1865. How would somebody like you or I even get our hands on this document to even know this? Like, come on.
We wouldn't even know that we need to find out about this document.
Exactly.
We don't know what a document is.
Exactly. And so you mean to tell me, like, they made reading illegal and then wrote the laws down? What?
Yeah.
Because for the longest, I used to get so upset. And I'm like, why don't you niggas Y'all ignorant niggas, why don't y'all understand? But it's like, no, I get it.
They didn't even know that they needed to learn.
They didn't know. And that's deep. It's one thing to know you need to learn and to not learn, but it's another thing to know that you don't even need to know. I don't even know where I'm going with it. I don't know. I'm sorry. I know I fucked that up. I don't even know where I'm going. I'm so confused.
To not know that you need to know.
Yes. This wine is caught up.
You didn't need to know. But nah, man, that's a good point, man. My mom used to say this to me all the time. She said, if you don't want somebody to know something, put it in a book. She said that's what people used to say. It's speaking about blacks specifically. If you don't want a black person to know how to do something, just put it in a book. And it's crazy because that seemed like I was like, dang, that's kind of cold. But if you take it back to slavery times, it's quite literal.
Yeah, and it's not only literal, but it's effective.
Yeah.
You made it illegal for us to read and then proceeded to write the laws down.
Yeah.
What? And so now on a slavery tip, it's 1865. Well, let's say it's 1868. There's no social media. Last I was told, hey, slaves were freed in Galveston, Texas. Niggas is cool. I can't read, but I'm free.
I heard
I'm free. So next thing I know, I'm loitering because I don't know anything about black codes.
Yeah,
I'm loitering.
You can't read the laws.
Can't read the laws because they wrote them down. So now I'm loitering and someone comes up to me and says, sir, you're arrested. For what? Oh, you didn't know that loitering is illegal? What, sir? I just got freed off a plantation. You have to have a job within the first 6 months. Sir, I didn't know that. We wrote it down. Sir, I can't read. Nigga, I don't give a fuck. Come on. And so now you lock me up for loitering, which is a law. And so guess what? I've been duly convicted of a crime. Now I'm a legal slave of the state. And for niggas who think I'm just pulling shit out of my ass, I have a Supreme Court case that prefaces all this. 1870, Ruffin versus Commonwealth. It was the first Supreme Court case that stated and made precedence for the fact that someone who is a prisoner is a legal slave of the state. So I want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. At down that goddamn ice cream.
Man knows his history. And that Vaseline.
And put down that Vaseline. Go shop with Burt's. At least he up front. Fuck this.
Put that Vaseline down.
Put that Juneteenth Vaseline down.
I
seriously.
know that label is cool, but it ain't that cool.
Yeah, man. Burt's been the same, man. Burt been about them bees.
Exploitation, man. I had started talking about it earlier, but this is propaganda, man. It's we have got to stop falling for this stuff. They make it cool, make stuff cool in the media, get some people talking about it, get some celebrities talking about it, and it's game over. We have got to stop falling for this.
Yes. We're miseducating the youth.
Yeah, man. Like, no, please. If the question is, should it be celebrated? The answer is no.
Yeah, I think like, and I was trying to find every way to be like, we should celebrate it, but it's just like, it's all it's gonna do is perpetuate. That's a word woke niggas use. All it's gonna do is perpetuate a lie, dude. Like, Don't tell my 7-year-old nephew Juneteenth ended slavery for good. Tell him it ended slavery for 170 hours.
Yeah, in
170 days.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry,
but even with that being said, on top of that, it needs to be explicitly stated that slavery is still legal.
Yes,
I think that's a big problem. Like nobody says that. That's not a commonly known thing. That needs to be a commonly known thing. Slavery is still legal.
Yes,
there's nothing illegal about slavery. There's just a stipulation to it.
Yes,
I don't know. It's I mean it's not even really it's not convoluted. It's very black and white. Slavery is still legal. I was trying to think of an analogy. I'm a big analogy person. I like to make analogies.
Right. Well, they help with life. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the first thing that came to mind is like murder. And it's like, all right, cool. Well, not cool. Murder's not cool. But you have certain stipulations around murder to where murder becomes quote unquote legal. Not that it's legal, but if you have a situation where it's like a crime of passion or self-defense, then a jury might rule to not convict that person of that crime. And so then it makes murder something that can slip through the cracks. And it ties to this. It almost kind of contradicts my point here. This might have to be edited out. But I mean, with all that being said, it's the same thing with slavery. It's like, okay, slavery is illegal, but if these criteria fit, we'll go ahead and let that slavery slip through the cracks.
Yeah.
And it's just like, don't sit here and try to tell me something's illegal if there's some cracks I can slip through with it.
Right. It's not illegal.
And so to tie the two together, like with the murder thing, the cracks are very small, but with slavery, the cracks are the cracks are about as wide as the gates, you know? Like,
damn, that's well put. Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's some humongous loopholes.
Yeah. And it's wild because to bring back the whole critical thinking part, it's like we all can agree as a people. I don't give if black, white, blue, indigo. There seems to be a peculiar relationship between people who have melanin and the cops. We can all look at it and say there's at least a peculiar relationship, and that's stating it as kindly and politically correct as I can.
If you want to expound upon that peculiar relationship, we can take it all the way back to where cops originated.
But it's funny. That's a conversation I was going towards. We can sit here and look at cops and say, okay, there seems to be a little tension between this group and this group specifically and this group. And so then, like you were saying, so glad great minds think alike. You take it back and you really start to think about it. And it's like, well, wait a minute. The only way to be a slave is to be a prisoner. The only way to be a prisoner is to be convicted of a crime. The only way to be convicted of a crime is to get stopped for a crime. The only way to get stopped for a crime is to have an encounter with the police. Mm-hmm. So then you look at things at the atomic level, at their root. If we're really being honest, I don't give a damn if you black, white. I'm not one of them people fuck 12 and shit. Because if somebody come break into my house, I'm gonna call y'all asses. but I can critically see here, y'all are slave catchers. Because the only way to be a slave is to be convicted of a crime.
Yeah.
And then you go back and look at the original badge of slave catchers and you see that star. Whew, Lord, take me, Jesus. It just gets too heavy. It's almost so obvious. It's like, yo, like, we don't really see what's going on here. Like you said, I'm glad you alluded to smoke and mirrors. And it's like, we can say what we want about anything going on in the world. And you know what I'm saying? We have, I mean, Me Too. You know, feminism, the LG, I don't even want to leave out any letters, the community. You know, like, you know, I'm just like, I ain't here to defend nobody. But there are so many people who have a stance that can be argued different ways. To me, this is unarguable. Yeah. Slavery is literally legal. If I pull out cash to pay for something, I may end up with a slave owner that's more than likely on my money. Something's wrong here.
Yeah.
You see the relationships between cops, slave catchers, and blacks.
Hey, shout out to the internet once again on that, because
Yeah.
Everything's only a few searches away, guys.
You know what I'm saying? What would Harriet have done to text the nigga?
She would have had a Discord, man.
She would have. There would have been no slavery.
It would have been a free Discord.
We have to use technology to our. Thank you for bringing that up. We have to use technology to our advantage. It's the ancestors would promote it greatly because what they would have been. Do you know what our ancestors would have been able to do in 1988 to be riding through some hood somewhere in America and have a cell phone to record a cop putting crack on a back seat? And now they're facing a mandatory minimum because they can't afford a decent lawyer. So now they have to have a plea bargain, which you alluded to. And now they have to do a minimum of 5 or 10 years in federal prison, which helps me out if I privately own a prison because slavery's legal.
Now they can make my bottle caps.
Now they can make your bottle caps. I had a family member very close to me, not gonna state which part of the family. I had a family member of mine. Did 4 years in federal prison. I can't put this one on my pinky. This 3.5 with his pinky. Nigga did 4 years in federal prison. You know what he told me he did in West Virginia for a job? This nigga was making off the chairs just like you and I are sitting in office chairs for 15 cents an hour.
That's slave labor, man.
That's slave labor. And like you alluded to in the first part of this video, you go back to America's origin. How did this country get started? On free labor.
Slave labor. And that circles right back to what we started this off with. Slavery, what's that term? I don't want to misquote. The type of slavery?
Oh, chattel.
Chattel. Just because it's not chattel slavery, just because you don't see people in chains out in fields picking crops. We live in a there are still farmers. We do still need crops picked, but there's a lot more work that we're doing now. There's a lot different work that we're doing now. And when the work is being done for free, when the work is being done and the people doing the work are not being paid for that work, that is what is defined as slavery. So you could have somebody, if there was a way to somehow get engineers pinned up on some sort of crime. You got a bunch of computer engineers. You get them pinned up on a crime, and you take those guys. Now they're criminals. They have records, and you put them in a room with computers, and you make them sit there and make websites and come up with all kind of new programs, and you're not paying them for it. They're slaves. They're not in a field picking cotton. They're not in a field picking tobacco. They're not living in these. While they're in prison, they may be living in some similar quarters, but it doesn't look like roots. That's not what slavery is now. But what slavery is when somebody is doing work and they're not being paid for it. And that is what a lot of these corporations thrive on. I won't say they thrive on it.
I mean, shit.
Yeah, they probably do thrive on it because
Walmart,
you're taking
Whole Foods.
You're taking an expense that may be, up in the tens of thousands per month, and wiping that out with slave labor.
Easy.
That helps your bottom line.
My brother's. Oh, there we go. That boy could hold water to save his life. Fuck it. My brother did 4 years federal. You mean to tell me he was making chairs for 15 cents an hour? Just speaking from an economic standpoint, I could have a warehouse where I pay employees $14 an hour to make my chairs, or I can pay them to literally, just to make it easier, $15 an hour. Or I could say, let me divide that by 100 and pay my employees that? Are you kidding me? That's 100 times the profit.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
This is what the Civil War was fought over. Why would you pay to have your cotton picked when you could get your cotton picked for free?
Right, for free or next to free.
Why would you pay for those office shares? Why would you pay $15 an hour for those office shares when you could get the same office shares produced for 15 cents an hour?
Right.
This is why the 13th Amendment is what it is.
Yes. the biggest to me, like it, absolutely without a doubt in my eyes, just my opinion. America's just, and America got a lot of dirty laundry. This has bowel movement stains on it. This is ridiculous. Ridiculous.
But that's how it was started.
It has to end.
Yeah.
And there's a way. 28th Amendment. There are 27 current amendments. This been waiting to talk to y'all ass about this. There are 27 current amendments. And actually, before we get to that, because now that we're on amendments, I'm glad you even brought up how the how the South fought to keep slavery. Because the crazy thing is, here's my beef with fucking Abraham Lincoln. Because ever since I was younger, the spirit moves. The ancestors talk. Before I was a history major, I'm talking like 6th, 7th, 8th grade. I always had this feeling about Abraham Lincoln. Not necessarily negative, but I was never like on his team. I just always kind of was like, I don't know. This guy seems interesting. And then about 3 or 4 months ago, and this is 9 years after I've received my degree, 8 years after I taught them poor 8th graders those lies that I was paid to teach them 8th grade history, I discovered the Corwin Amendment. And what this was because, like I said, January 1st, 1863, that was the Emancipation Proclamation, dead in the middle of the Civil War. But mind those dates. That was 1863. The Corwin Amendment, which Abe Lincoln pushed for right before the Civil War broke out. It was like niggas is like, hey, what's up, nigga? You squaring up? What's good, nigga? Right before nigga threw that first punch, Abe Lincoln was like, well, listen. Because, you know, he's hailed as this man who tried to stop slavery. That's not the case. He tried to stop the expansion of slavery. And that is the key. Because if you read the Corwin Amendment, it was actually an amendment that was proposed to be the 28th Amendment. It got shot down. No pun intended. War. Bam, bam. This amendment said, all right, you know what? No more slavery moving out west. But in the South, y'all can keep it. So it's like, yo, stop telling my children, I don't have children, stop telling my nieces and nephews, stop telling my little cousins, stop telling all these black kids and white kids, but stop telling the youth, stop telling grown-ass adults, stop telling this lie. Abe Lincoln didn't, like, it's crazy how the absence of one word or the absence of the understanding of one word can change a whole culture.
Yeah.
Abe Lincoln didn't try to stop slavery. He tried to stop the expansion of slavery. So what does that mean? Georgia, y'all can keep it. South Carolina, y'all can keep it. North Carolina, y'all can keep it. Bitch, that's half the fucking country. Fuck you.
I don't think y'all understand. As far as population goes, once you start getting west, it ain't really a whole lot of people till you get to California.
Hello. Not in the 1800s.
Especially not in the 1800s.
We talking Native Americans now, and that's another conversation. We got to get on camera.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, we were...
Yeah.
There were no Americans out west. That's why it's called Manifest Destiny, because they were trying to start out west. So,
yeah.
It's like
political plays, man.
P squared. Political plays, man. Yeah.
That's what the country was started on. It's still happening, just like slavery.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yo. I appreciate you coming through. Hey, we might come back for a part 3, but like, thank you for this. Yeah. It's one thing to go here and cuss in front of the camera. Niggas gonna click off after 2 seconds. They gonna be like, he woke. But when you see 2 niggas in agreement or just talking about it, it's something different, because people have to, all jokes aside, people got to hear this. Yeah. They really do, especially folks our age. Trouble just was shot and murdered last night. The thing about that is, y'all know I hate rap music, the current culture rap music. It's still recording.
Okay.
I don't even want to touch on that. It's too early. I don't like to speak on people's death too early. It's frustrating. Yeah. Any parting words?
Slavery's still legal. We have the internet, guys. You don't have an excuse anymore. People perish for a lack of knowledge. Knowledge is abundant at this point in time. Take the meat and spit the bones. There's a lot of information out there. Brandon talked about this. There's misinformation, there's information. Take the meat, spit the bones, but the meal is there.
That's well put.
Yeah.
That's very well put.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out Aki too. You know what I'm saying? We on. My closing words, as always, do before you die. It's not do or die. No one makes it out alive. Catch you on the flip. Read that 13th Amendment. Pull it up. Please read it. Slavery is not illegal. What Harriet Tubman would have done, what Nat Turner would have done to have the information readily available at our fingertips.